Thank you. I've got a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to cover a lot of material very quickly. Ms. Fulton, I've recently seen data that the military is being more and more geographically concentrated in the South and the West. In 1985, it was about 50-50 between the South and the West and the Northeast and the Midwest. Today, it's 70-30. It concerns me. Our framers were very concerned about a standing army. We've crossed that Rubicon, and now we're developing a regional basis to our Army. I hope you will address this in terms of recruiting and just being cognizant of this growing regionalization, if you will, of our professional military. Will you commit to me that you'll pursue that issue?
Senator, I will. All kinds of diversity are important. Geographic diversity, no less than others.
Thank you. Second, we're in a whole new set of conflict. The beginning of whatever conflict we enter into, and hopefully there won't be one, will be cyber. So the question is, do we use the same kind of recruiting tools, the same kind of standards, the same kind of physical standards for people that we need to fight the cyber war as opposed to the people that need to fight the kinetic war? I think we need to face the reality that we're in at least partially a different kind of conflict. Do you agree?
Senator, I do agree. I think we have to do everything we can to make sure we're getting the best cyber talent, and that includes being creative. I have to say the committee's done an incredible job granting special authorities to be able to recruit and retain that talent. I think we have to make sure while we have very high standards, we want to maintain those high standards.
Well, the standard should match the requirements of the job. That's what I'm suggesting.
The standards should align with the needs of the service. Yes, we should. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Honey, a couple of just comments and then a couple of questions. One is, I know this is not strictly in your field, but it's close, and that is, I believe strongly that when we're acquiring complex technological weapon systems, platforms, we should be also acquiring the IP. We should not have to pay extra for being able to 3D print a part, for example. So I hope that's something that will inform your discussion. Secondly, I'm very worried about smaller, more agile and innovative companies being de facto excluded from the Department of Defense process simply because of the overwhelming nature of the forms and what's necessary. I hope that we've done a lot here to try to encourage working with smaller companies, but we've had testimony from Silicon Valley saying we don't even go to the Pentagon anymore. We don't answer the RFPs because the process is so cumbersome and burdensome. So I hope that's something else that you will follow up on. You mentioned hypersonics. I believe that's one of our great strategic problems right now. Our posture with regard to China involves aircraft carriers and naval power, and unless we develop a counter force to hypersonics, that force can be diminished dramatically at the early stages of a conflict. Hypersonics, cyber, of course, and directed energy. You mentioned all of those. Directed energy in particular, where we're talking about missile defense using $7,500 million missiles. Directed energy could be a lot more efficient if we can deal with the technological problems. Are you interested in and believe that we should be pursuing greater research into directed energy?
Yes, Senator. The issues of missile defense and other applications for directed energy is one that I have worked in and around for a number of years. The technologies have gotten much better. There has been tremendous advances that have been made, still more to be made, but it is an area of research of which I continue to support.
Thank you. Ms. Hinderstein, deterrence doesn't work with terrorists. My nightmare is terrorists getting a hold of nuclear weapons. We had a display here recently of nuclear warheads. They're about the size of a beer keg. They're not room size. They're not very big. And how do we deal, and perhaps you should take this question for the record rather than try to answer it in 25 seconds. How do we deal with the issue of proliferation and the danger of terrorists getting a hold of nuclear material and eventually either an entire nuclear weapon or the technology to make a nuclear weapon? I think that's one of the great sort of undiscussed challenges that's coming at us. if the terrorists on September 11th could have killed 3 million people instead of 3,000, they would have. Give me just a brief discussion of that, and then hopefully a longer discussion for the record.
Yes, Senator, and thank you for the question. I would be happy to take a longer answer on the record. But I would just say that I agree that the potential for nuclear radiological terrorism is a major concern. I support an all-of-the-above approach to nuclear security, meaning secure, remove, convert, prevent, detect, and then if anything were to happen, be able to attribute and prosecute. And so I do think that we have to look at nuclear security as a significant and frankly, persistent threat to the United States.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator King. Senator Cotton, please.